Yes, the growth of renewable energy in North America is exciting. It's significant. You get 2% of your electricity from wind energy today. That's good. Not good enough, but it's good, better than a lot of places. It's not nearly enough by any standard. The USA and Canada together can move to 100% clean energy, and we can do it within 2 decades, but we can't do it with current policies, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about. And let's just take for an example that here in Canada, as I said, you consume about 550 terawatt hours of electricity a year, but of course you waste most of that. So let's say you could cut your consumption 50%. You should be able to do that. Most people of your standard of living in the world use 50% less electricity per capita or per household than you do now, so you should be able to do that. I mean, Canadians are like everybody else. You're capable of doing this. And let's say that you could do that, cut your consumption in half. Well, you're at 100% renewable right there. And you've got electricity left over you could use for your electric vehicle fleet, or you could sell for a premium to us Yankees, because we always like to buy things from you here in Canada, and you could sell it to us. So, Canadians, Americans are capable of great national efforts. We've achieved things together as allies in war and as independents, as in our provinces and states and as countries. We built the great dams on the Tennessee, the great dams on the Columbia. In Ontario, they built a great system, Ontario Hydro, Quebec, Hydro-Quebec. And you in Canada have universal health care. What a radical concept. The United States, we're still talking about it, arguing about it. It's Canadian. Well, my gosh, that scares the pants off of us down there. Now look at civil rights. Just 2 years ago, Americans said we're too bigoted, too racist, too stupid to elect a black man president. And we did it. We fooled ourselves. So we are capable of doing these things when given half a chance. And think about smoking. There's nobody smoking in here. There's no ashtray in these chairs. 20 years ago, there had been an ashtray at every chair. We can do this. We have the capability when we have the vision of where we want to go and the will to get there. We as a people can do this. Canadians can do this. Americans can do this. But we got to get started. You have the best wind and the best solar resource here in Ontario, in Alberta, than anywhere in Canada, and you're not using it. That's part of your challenge as Albertans. Look at this. Germany, Ontario, you have 50 to 75% more solar radiation than Ontario, 75 to 80% more than the Germans, and you're not using it. It's your natural resources. It's like the oil sands. It's yours. Well, you're using that. That's okay, because we got to buy that stuff. We like your oil. But you need to be doing your own resources up here, and it doesn't all have to be oil or coal. You have some of the best solar resources in North America. So we in North America are far better than Germany. We have more land, more wind, more hydro to balance out those variable resources like wind and solar. And we have a lot fewer people, that's for sure. We have the best biomass, particularly here in Alberta. Solar PV, as I've said, much better than in Germany. You have geothermal. You haven't even started tapping your geothermal in Alberta. Actually, we have it all in North America, and we're not using it. So, North America needs a massive reconstruction of its infrastructure. We haven't invested in our public infrastructure for 30 years, and we could use renewable energy to revive the industrial economies in Canada and the United States. We can create a new industrial revolution and use renewable energy, because we're going to have to do it eventually anyway, and we can use that to create jobs and opportunity for our people that we have neglected for 20 and 30 years. But we have to get started. And in the process, we can create a class of electricity rebels that will create a rural revolution producing electricity for a profit. So this is a challenge that's worthy of Canada. It's worthy of all great nations, and we should get started. So I'm going to give you a philosophical context for why I'm here in Alberta, why I'm on this campaign. My goal is the high penetration of renewable energy as quickly as possible. Now, not everybody agrees with me, certainly here in Alberta. I found that out today. But that's my goal, and I hope you share that goal, because that's why you're at this meeting. But I also have some very important goals. I want the ownership of renewable resources to be equally distributed across all races, all classes, all income levels in society. I just don't want Florida Power and Light to have all the windmills. I want you to own the windmills too, and the solar panels as well. Everybody should have a shot at this, because it's a resource for all of us. I want to stimulate rural economic development I want to put money back in the pockets of farmers. I want distributed generation. Central generation is okay, it's fine, but we want distributed generation. We want solar and wind here in the city of Edmonton. In Pincher Creek's good too, but we need it right here at the load in Edmonton so we can create new industry and jobs for our people that we've neglected for so long. The key question, absolutely fundamental, do you want renewables? That's it. That's the big question. Everything else goes from that. And if you don't want renewables, that's fine. You don't need to talk to me. You don't need to come to meetings like this. You just don't do it. But if you want renewables, then you've got to have programs that are going to work. And if we're going to have programs that are going to work, the question is, who do we give the contracts to? Is it going to be only the elite few, like Florida Power and Light, Electricity de France, Energie Portugal, or is it going to be for everyone? How are we going to assign the payments, the money that it takes to build this? Are we going to have Rex, rocks, and green tags and a whole pile of paperwork like we Americans do? Are we going to give subsidies like PTC and ITC we do in the United States? I know you don't have subsidies here in Alberta. You have innovation funds. That's different. I feel so much better now. Advanced renewable tariffs, where you actually just pay for the electricity and you be done with it. So if we look at market mechanisms around the world, quota systems are like the renewable portfolios going too fast, slow down. Renewable, if you see my wife back there waving her arms, it means I'm either speaking too fast or I'm not pronouncing anything. If the quotas use a tendering system, request for proposals, and typically you find those in Anglophone countries, English-speaking countries, where they have very timid targets and really don't have the political will to meet those targets. California, you think California is green, right? We live in California. It's not as green as you think. Most of the wind energy that's developed in California was built 25 years ago. That's why I went to California. Or you can have these renewable tariffs. Once it was only the non-Anglophone countries, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, places like that. But now we're seeing Anglophone countries. Great Britain's a good example, of course, Ontario, Vermont. Where there is a desire to meet an aggressive target and have the political will to do so, that's what you use. Because these feed-in tariffs, 50% of all the wind developed worldwide has been done with feed-in tariffs. 75% of all the photovoltaics developed worldwide have been done with feed-in tariffs, and almost all the biogas development worldwide have been done with feed-in tariffs. If you want to do renewable energy, it's your only choice. So there are a number of myths that we need to dispel, particularly here in Alberta, that renewables are free or cheap. They're not. We have to pay for them, but they are affordable, and it's certainly worth it. Another is that renewables can't be added quickly. They certainly can be added quickly, and the problem in the world today is are we building too much? Well, for me, that's a real problem. I love that kind of problem. Because for 30 years, they say we're not building enough. So I like that kind of problem. Well, is 6,000 megawatts a year good enough or not? That's the kind of problem you want to have. Or that feed-in tariffs are not a market-based mechanism, or that feed-in tariffs are expensive. So let's just look at this. Renewables can be added quickly. Germany added 40 terawatt hours of generation within 10 years. That would be 2/3 of your electricity supply. They did that within 10 years. Spain added 30 terawatt hours of generation. That would be 50% of your supply here in Alberta, and they did that within 10 years. And look at PV. PV, the poor child of renewables there. Within 5 years, they added 5 terawatt-hour generation. That'd be 8% of your supply. And Spain did it as well. So it's not just Germans or Spaniards. The French are doing it. The Italians are now doing it as well. So look, we can have fairly high penetration of renewables. Sure, France is only at 1 to 2%, but remember, it's France. France has had a love affair with nuclear power for 30 years. And a little reluctant to give up the reactors, but now they generate as much electricity from wind energy in France as one of their large reactors. California, as I said, 25 years we've been producing 2% of our supply, but Germany gets 7% of its electricity from wind. Spain, 14%. Portugal gets 15%. Denmark gets 1/5 of its electricity from wind today. Now, Portugal, we've got a real problem in Portugal, and I want to share this with you. This is one of the dilemmas that you have in renewable energy as an analyst like myself, as a proponent. There's a big debate. You probably saw the New York Times article. It's been circulated widely on the internet. They're not sure what's going to happen in Portugal this year. Is it going to be 50%? Or is it going to be 60% renewable energy in Portugal this year within 10 years? That's how fast we can do this when you have the political will to do so.